Hey everyone, I hope you're doing fantastic. Today I wanted to talk about why you should not be a medical scribe. I'm going to talk about the 3 biggest reasons why you shouldn't be a scribe, saving the most important one for last. So let's get into it. Quick overview of what a scribe is. It's basically advanced shadowing. They call it like shadowing on steroids. You just follow the doctor around and help them out with charting, basically. You stand in the room and type on the computer that they give you on top of like the little scribe card on wheels, and you just talk about the patient visit in the note. So let's say 65-year-old male with history of hypertension, cardiovascular disease, etc. Then you put in the physical exam when the doctor dictates it to you. And then there's like other things in the note. Depends on who you work for, depends on where you work, what charting software you use, but you're just doing the charting basically. And scribing is one of the most common clinical experiences that pre-meds do to put on their med school application. I was a scribe for 3 years in the ER with Scribe America and a chief scribe for a little bit over a year. Scribe America itself is a topic for a whole nother video. Starting with point number 1, terrible hours. Overnights will cook you, and me, having sleep issues, being a scribe in the ER made it like 10 times worse. A lot of the times I was absolutely miserable outside of work and especially going to school at the same time. You're more than likely going to get an ER scribe job because they're easiest to come by. The good scribe jobs with like daytime hours and outpatient stuff, those jobs are very hard to come by. And as an ER scribe, you're going to be working mandatory overnights between 2 and 4 a month, and the overnights are going to absolutely destroy you, especially as a student. This is just me, but one overnight shift or like one bad night of sleep can completely destroy me for a week. You know, other things go into it like your habits, how bad low sleep affects you, but being a scribe and working overnight is really not going to help. And those 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. shifts were like the worst times ever. And you will be working them because they're mandatory as an ER scribe. Point number 2, the pay's terrible. It's no secret that pre-med jobs pay trash. Things like CNA, MA, etc. The pay's terrible, but as pre-meds we do them because we need the clinical experience. I started around $9 and then they bumped it up to 10 and then they bumped it up to 12. And then when I was a chief scribe, I was making $13.65. I was doing so much work, working these crazy hours, destroying my sleep schedule, struggling in school because I was tired all the time and I was still getting paid terrible. But again, as pre-meds, that's not really the most important thing for us. The most important thing is getting the clinical hours. So moving on to the 3rd point and the most important point of the video. The most important reason why you should not be a medical scribe is scribing is not even a good clinical experience nowadays. There's been talk in pre-med circles online for a while, like on Reddit and SDN, about how scribing is sort of falling out of favor with adcoms and how it's no longer considered a good clinical experience anymore, and that is 100% the case in my experience and what I've seen. It makes sense because you're not really interacting with patients hands-on, you're just following the doctor around, and you do that for thousands of hours. It's a very good experience to see what the medical field is all about and what a doctor does, but for terms of getting into medical school and gaining favor with admissions committees to medical schools, it is not good anymore. As a scribe, you're pretty much getting no hands-on patient experience. A lot of the time, you're not even allowed to touch the patient because it's a liability with the hospital or the practice. So, yeah. I mean, unless you're a medical assistant and doing scribing as well, but at that point, you're kind of just an MA. I wouldn't really call that strictly scribing. But anyway, being a scribe is not good clinical experience. On my first cycle, the only clinical experience I had was like some hospital volunteering and 3 years of scribing. And I met with admissions committees who rejected my application, and they told me that the main reason I did not get in was that I did not have hands-on clinical experience. They said, yeah, my scribing was a very good experience and they liked it, but they wanted to see hands-on clinical experience, and I was missing that from my application. That was one of the main reasons I was rejected everywhere. I might just be one case, but from my experience and what I've seen and heard online and in person, scribing is just not enough experience if you want to get into medical school. There are simply better options. I recommend being a CNA, which is what I did on my 2nd cycle. I got 6 months of clinical experience as a CNA before I applied again. I recommend being a medical assistant. You can be an EMT, something where you're physically touching the patient and being directly involved in their care hands-on. If you're pretty set on being a doctor, like let's say you've shadowed, you know for sure you want to be a doctor, just skip scribing and go for the hands-on patient experiences I previously mentioned. But one positive thing about scribing, if you're on the fence about going to medical school and being a doctor, I would say that scribing is an absolutely fantastic experience to see what doctors do every day and to let you decide for yourself and see it for yourself and make a decision for yourself on if you really want to be a doctor. It's interactive shadowing, and it will show you if this is what you really want to do. At my Scribe job, I've had so many people quit and then say, I could never be a doctor. I really don't want to do this. I've also had people pivot to PA school. I've had people pivot to nursing school on my team. And I've also had people say, hey, this is awesome, and my story as well, and from my perspective, hey, this scribing thing is awesome. I love working in the ER. I love hanging out with doctors, helping them out with the charting and seeing what they do, and I like what I see, and I want to keep going and be a doctor one day and apply to medical school. I found scribing awesome. I loved it, and I really wanted to be the doctor one day, do what they do, be in their shoes, and I really just loved it. But it is not a good clinical experience. It did not help me get into medical school, and one of my regrets is being a scribe for so long. If I could go back and do it all over again, I would probably be a scribe for 6 months to a year and then quit and do CNA. So my recommendation is just do some shadowing and then get a hands-on clinical job. Like I said before, CNA, MA, EMT, things like that. Just skip scribing altogether, because as a pre-med, you're so freaking busy. You have so much on your plate. You're pretty much trying to get straight A's. You're sweating in school. You're doing research. You're doing all this stuff. And I feel like nowadays you're just going to be wasting your time with scribing, because it's not even going to look good on your med school application anymore for adcoms with regards to like hands-on clinical experience and showing that you really know what it means to interact with patients. So yeah, that's the video. Those are my thoughts on scribing, and if you guys have anything to add or any questions, just let me know down below, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching.